Okay, so what we're going to be doing is laying out the post brackets on this 3/16 plate steel, and we're going to cut out our post brackets that we're going to then drill holes in for our bolts, and then we're also going to weld number 3 rebar onto the bottom of the bottom plate so they can be wet set into concrete. These brackets, I started making them about 3 years ago for posts for this shop that I'm in now. The post bases were rotted off at the ground level, and so we dug the old rotted posts out one by one. We put sonotubes in the ground, and we cast new concrete piers, and then we re-bracketed the existing posts above ground to the concrete. That way we had good solid foundation connections again. And I'll include some pictures here of how far the posts were rotted at that time. This is for the barn, or I'm sorry, this is for our shop. So we call this the shop. This is 28 by 40. And then I've got a couple barns over at the house, right off the back of the house. And then off of this shop is where we're gonna tear down the 28 by 16 lean-to and build a 28 by 40 pole building off the back of this for the animals and stuff. So long story short, we're making wet set brackets for 6x6 posts, and you can find details. I think Sturdy Wall is one of the manufacturers that makes them. Menard sells a variant of that. And when we were looking at buying these before, I think they were like $80 a piece for one of these brackets. And now the other night when I looked, they're like $112 a piece. So we're making 10 of them. I made 12 for this building, the shop here. I made 4 for the lean-to that we put on this for hay storage, and then I'm making 10 for this. So 12, 16, so I've made 26 of these. And the last time I figured it out, I actually bought steel that was pre-sheared, and those came in at like $9.60 per bracket of what I had in cost. And I bought this sheet of steel. This is a 52 by, I believe it was 8 feet. So 52 by 96. I bought at a salvage steel scrapyard. And we're gonna be able to get all 10 out of this easy. So I'm just gonna go ahead and lay these out 5 inches on center. So we're gonna have 5-inch wide brackets. Get this here off. And so, each leg's going to be 14. So I'll have 14 here, 14 on the other side, and then it's going to encapsulate our 5.5 by 5.5 or 6 by 6, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to go 33.5. So now, plasma cutter time. Using the old Thermal Arc plasma cutter. It's a monster of an old transformer machine, so it's not efficient, but it cuts pretty well. To the guy that gave me these old welding clamps. Thank you. Put them to use. very little bubbly slag on these. Obviously there's a couple spots where I goofed up, and let's see here. There's one, gonna have to grind some of that, but for the most part they cut really, really clean. Just gonna have to take some hammer chipping to knock all those slag edges off, smooth them up. So we're gonna set the drill press up here, start drilling holes. There's an upper bolt hole, a lower bolt hole on either side. So there's 2, 4, and there's 4 rebar holes in the center. So there's 8 per piece, 10 pieces. So 80 holes. We're gonna drill like an 1/8 inch pilot and then step up 3 or 4 times. So yeah, we're, 240 to 320 holes, but gotta be done. This is the old, I don't know what it is, Royal Kennedy Auto Manufacturing out of Chicago Heights, Illinois. Spindle speed on low is 460 RPM, so it's a bit fast for 5/8, but that's okay. Done her before, do her again. So we've finished cleaning up our post bracket blanks. So there's 10 blanks here that have 5/8 holes drilled throughout. So this is the progression of things with our post brackets. We've got 9 here on the floor, so we've got our blanks welded with the rebar anchors. Sorry, it's like 5:45 a.m. We mark out the width of the base plate where the post goes in. We slot it with a zip wheel and we bend it over, and that's what the post bracket looks like. So obviously the rebar will be set in concrete as we pour it when it's still wet. Then when it hardens up around the rebar, that's your anchor. So we have to do that to the rest of these. And then on the back side of the bracket here, where we've made our cut, bent the bracket, we're gonna go and weld this through. That one will be ready for paint. 9 more after this. All right, down to our last one. These here are all 5.5 by 5.5 brackets. These 2 here are 5 1/4 because when you mill your own lumber, sometimes things just don't work out like you had planned. Pretty simple here. This piece of rebar is 5.5 inches wide, and I just have it tacked to the table. It's 5.5 here, and if I sit this over this rebar, take my welding clamp, and I clamp it there, I know I'm 5.5. I scribed a line here, a square line, so that I can kind of keep an eye on it. Make sure it's square. Okay, we're nice and straight there, nice and straight there. So I know we're 5.5 down here, we're 5.5 up here. Pretty good. I'm gonna weld it out. Smoking. All right. That's really all there is to them. Yeah, good morning. It's 5:30, 6 o'clock, somewhere around there again. I'm out in the shop here. I got to modify some brackets from yesterday, and I watch Arms Family Homestead on YouTube, and sitting there listening to it in the background, and then all of a sudden I hear, "Sure, I'll show you some yoga videos." I don't know how. I don't know how, but something triggered the Google, whatever the heck it is, this guy, to look for yoga videos. Well. So what we've got today, after going through digging and setting the post brackets yesterday, is that these brackets that are good for wet set, we've got 4 left. we're going to be modifying them to be able to bolt to the top of a concrete slab, because we found out yesterday that our concrete slab that's back there is more than adequate to have them bolted to the top. So it's like 10 inches or so, which is wild to me. But anyways, so we're going to modify these. We're going to cut the rebar off, and I've got some angle iron here, and we're going to cut sections of angle iron off, drill holes for concrete anchors, and then weld it up to these guys here. So you'll see. Alright, well, we've got all our brackets. Rebar cut off, ground down flush because all the weld on the bottom needed to be ground off flush. And we got our new bracket tabs are drilled, cut, everything's prepped, everything's ready to weld. This is what it's essentially going to look like. So we're going to take this, weld this here, and then we'll anchor this to the ground, and they're just ready to be welded. I don't think I'm going to do that right now. Might have lied a bit about not going to weld them out. Figured no time like the present. Got my last weld done, and check out what I've seen. I'm out of gas. That's special. They're all welded up. So now I am definitely not a welder. I just play one on YouTube. I got them all cleaned up. They're ground flush on the bottom. See if they're too hot. So yeah. But we're gonna let these cool, and then paint them, and then anchor them, and then put posts in them.